The letters vanished while Owen Reed was still holding the camera. At first, he thought his eyes were blurring. He was sitting on the floor of his childhood bedroom with dust on his jeans, the old second-hand camera balanced in both hands like something alive. The metal body was cold. The leather strap had cracked with age. Sand was still caught in the seam near the shutter, though no beach in his recorded life could explain how it had gotten there. On the bottom plate, shallow but unmistakable, were the letters he had not seen in 15 years. To Or. Mara Ellis to Owen Reed. His throat closed so hard he could barely breathe. He touched the engraving with his thumb, not pressing, only confirming. The letters were real. They had weight. They caught under his skin. They existed outside his memory, outside grief, outside the careful records that insisted he had spent all of 2007 in Seattle and had never lived in Astoria, never climbed a fire escape at 5 in the morning, never loved a girl in a red coat who folded receipts into paper boats. Then the M began to fade. Owen stopped breathing. It did not smear. It did not rub away. It thinned from inside the metal, as if some patient hand beneath the surface were sanding the past smooth. No, he whispered. The E softened next. He pressed his thumb over the letters, stupidly, desperately, as if skin could protect evidence from the world. Stop. The room remained quiet around him. The half-packed boxes. The stripped bed. The closet door hanging open. His dead father's house holding its breath. Or became O. Then only a pale scratch. Then nothing. Owen sat frozen with the camera in his lap. A minute ago, Mara had existed. Not just in his head. Not just in the ruined cassette tape downstairs where his 16-year-old voice said, "Mara, say something," and her answer had been carved out into a shape of silence. Not just in the photograph that had shown a red blur beside him outside the Astoria convenience store before the blur changed overnight into a mail truck. A minute ago, she had existed in metal. Now the camera looked ordinary. That was the cruelest part. The world did not leave a wound. It left plausibility. Owen laughed once, a sound so wrong it frightened him. He turned the camera over. Checked the bottom again. Checked it under the desk lamp. Checked it with the hunger of a man searching a hospital monitor for one more pulse. Nothing. Only a scratch where her initials had been. For 15 years, he had not remembered Mara Ellis. Then, 3 nights after he began clearing out his father's house, he found her name on a cassette in the basement, and an entire lost life came roaring back. Astoria, 2007. Sea fog. Cherry soda. Wet sneakers on convenience store tile. A girl knocking on his bedroom window before dawn, camera around her neck, saying, "Fog's good today. Come on." He remembered her laugh. He remembered the way she hated being called Mary. He remembered how she peeled labels off soda bottles when she was nervous. He remembered her father's Joni Mitchell record, the one she played when she missed him but never let finish. He remembered kissing her beside the old lighthouse while cold mist gathered in their hair and she carved their initials into the wall with a stolen pocket knife. He remembered loving her with the helpless certainty of 16. But every record in the world said she had never known him. His mother said they had never lived in Astoria. His school file said he had attended every class in Seattle that year. His old email had changed in front of him, Mara's photos becoming March photos with one casual refresh. The photograph had corrected itself by morning. And now the camera, the birthday gift Mara had pressed into his hands in the rain, telling him not to make everything about what could be paid back, had erased her while he watched. Owen lowered his forehead to the camera and shut his eyes. He was not afraid of being wrong anymore. He was afraid of being the only person left who remembered she had been real. The house creaked around him, settling into its own old bones. It had been his father's house first, though his mother had lived in it long enough to leave traces in every room, the chipped tile near the sink from where she once dropped a Dutch oven, the faint nail holes where she used to hang Christmas cards, the blue paint she chose for the downstairs bathroom and then immediately regretted. After the divorce that never officially became a divorce, after the years of separate bedrooms and polite holidays and unfinished arguments, his father had remained here alone. 6 months after the funeral, Owen had finally come to clear it out. He had arrived with 3 kinds of boxes and the intention to behave like a practical adult. Donate. So, He wrote the labels in black marker across the top flaps with the precise handwriting of a man trying not to feel anything. He worked in categories: kitchen appliances, old coats, tools, photos. He made decisions quickly at first because speed helped. His father's flannel shirts went into donation bags. Fishing gear went into the sell pile. Expired medication went into a paper sack for disposal. A drawer full of batteries, twist ties, and keys to forgotten locks went into the trash. Then he reached the basement. The basement smelled like damp cardboard and concrete. The overhead bulb flickered when he pulled the cord, casting light over stacked bins, a broken fan, a folding table, and boxes that had softened at the corners from years of Seattle rain seeping through the foundation. Owen worked in silence for an hour before he found the cassette. It was inside a warped cardboard box filled with old electronics: dead chargers, a handheld recorder, cracked headphones, a camcorder with no battery. The tape was small, the kind used in cheap voice recorders before phones made everyone careless with memory. A strip of masking tape ran across one side. Astoria, 2007. The name did not feel familiar at first. It felt more dangerous than that. It felt like standing outside a locked door and hearing someone breathe on the other side. Owen carried the tape upstairs. He cleaned the corroded battery contacts in the old recorder with a cotton swab and vinegar because he knew how to coax dead sound back from worse conditions. That was his work. Documentary studios, archives, grieving families, historians with impossible audio. He spent his days restoring voices buried under hiss and age. He could isolate a grandmother's laugh from a restaurant recording or pull a soldier's last interview through decades of static. He had not listened to the final voicemail his father left him, but he knew how to make other people's ghosts clearer. When he pressed play, the tape exhaled. At first there was only wind. Not city wind. Coastal wind. A broad, wet rush that hit the microphone too directly. Then gulls. A distant clang of rigging or a flag rope striking metal. A teenage laugh, half swallowed by static. Then his own 16-year-old voice said, embarrassed and bright, "Mara, say something." Owen went still. After his voice came an absence. Not silence. He knew silence. Silence had texture. Silence could be room tone, a pause, breath held, tape damage. This was different. This was a voice-shaped hole. The gulls continued. The wind continued. His younger self shifted, the recorder bumped, and then he laughed as if the missing answer had been funny or tender or exactly what he needed. Owen played it again. "Mara, say something." Nothing. "Mara, say something." Nothing. By the fifth replay, the first memory struck him. A window. Cold glass under his palm. A girl outside in the blue hour before sunrise, standing on a fire escape with a camera around her neck and rain caught in her eyelashes. "Fog's good today," she said. "Come on." Then another memory came. And another. They did not arrive in order. They crashed through him like waves breaking through rotten wood. A narrow apartment above a closed bait shop. His mother asleep on the couch because she cried less when she did not have to cross the hall to her room. His own bed under a window that leaked whenever the rain came sideways. Astoria's streets slick and silver. Mara's red coat. The roof of the Quickmart. Cherry soda. Paper boats. Her saying grief made adults speak in greeting cards. Her saying his name like she had found something interesting in it. He sat at the kitchen table until night filled the windows. The tape clicked off. Owen did not move. By morning he had found the film. It was wrapped in tissue at the bottom of the same basement box, tucked beside the camera he would not discover until later. He held the canister in his palm and knew with unreasonable certainty that it belonged to her. Or to them. Or to some version of his life that had been folded and hidden behind the one everyone else remembered. He drove it to a specialty photo lab in Ballard and paid extra for rush processing. The clerk, a woman with silver hair and thick glasses, asked, "Anything important on here?" Owen almost said no. Instead he said, "I don't know yet." While he waited, he called his mother. Diane answered on the fourth ring. There was the familiar clink of dishes in the background. She always performed domestic tasks during difficult conversations. It gave her hands something to do and made silence seem accidental. "Hi, honey," she said. "Mom," Owen said, standing under the awning outside the lab while rain ticked against the sidewalk, "did we ever live in Astoria?" The dishes stopped. The pause was small. To anyone else, maybe meaningless. To Owen, who restored damaged sound for a living, it was a room opening. "What?" Diane said. "In 2007. When you and Dad were having trouble. Did we leave Seattle for a while?" "No." She answered too quickly after answering too slowly. "You're sure?" "Owen, of course I'm sure." "There was an apartment," he said. "Over a bait shop. The window leaked by my bed. You bought a blue kettle because the stove didn't heat evenly." "Owen." "And there was a girl next door. Mara." "I don't know what you're talking about." "She had a camera. She." "Honey, grief does strange things." He closed his eyes. It was such a clean sentence. So adult. So useful. It covered everything without touching anything. "This isn't grief. You've been under a lot of stress. The house, your father, work." "Did we live in Astoria?" "No." "Did you ever leave Dad for 9 months?" "No." "Did I transfer schools?" "No." "You were at Roosevelt the whole year. You played in the winter concert. I have photos." The awning dripped cold water onto his shoulder. "I wasn't at that concert," he said. "Yes, you were." "I was in Astoria with Mara." "No, you weren't." The finality in her voice made him feel 16 again. Not because she was harsh. Diane was rarely harsh. She was worse. She was certain in the way adults became certain when uncertainty would cost them too much. After the call, Owen went home and checked. School records were not hard to find. Old yearbook archives. District attendance summaries. A winter concert program scanned and uploaded by someone's nostalgic parent. There he was, sophomore year, Roosevelt High School, present and accounted for. His name in the program. A grainy photograph of him standing in the back row with a clarinet in his hands, face blank, hair too long over his forehead. The date beneath the photo was December 14, 2007. Owen remembered that night. Rain pounding the Quick-Mart awning. Mara laughing so hard she had to lean against the brick because he had tried to open a cherry soda on the edge of a trash can and sprayed both their shoes. Her blue nail polish chipped on one thumb. Her saying, "Reed, you are impressively bad at being cool." He looked from the concert photo to the tape recorder beside his keyboard. Both things could not be true. The lab called at 5:12 p.m. The woman with silver hair handed him the envelope with the solemnity of someone who had processed enough film to know photographs could still ruin people. Most of the pictures were damaged. Blurred streets, fogged edges, streaks of light. Then Owen reached the third print. His teenage self stood outside a convenience store under a green awning. Beside him was a blur of red. It was not sharp. It was barely human. A shape, a coat. A suggestion of a girl standing just close enough that their sleeves almost touched. Owen gripped the counter. "Are you okay?" the clerk asked. He nodded. He was not okay. He was holding the first visible proof that the world had lied. He scanned the photo that night with trembling care. He enlarged it until the red blur broke apart into pixels. He saved copies to his computer, to an external drive, to a cloud folder, then printed 2 more. He slept with 1 print on the nightstand. In the morning, the red blur was a mail truck. Owen stood barefoot beside the bed, staring down. The photo had not deteriorated. It had not vanished. It had corrected itself. The teenage Owen still stood under the awning. The green sign still hung above the window. The wet pavement still reflected the store lights. But where Mara had been, there was now a red and white postal vehicle parked at the curb, so ordinary and reasonable that anyone else would have shrugged. He checked the scan. Mail truck. He checked the external drive. Mail truck. He opened the cloud folder. Mail truck. His hands went cold. That was when he began searching old emails, and for a few seconds, the world made its mistake again. In an abandoned account he had not opened in years, one subject line appeared in the search results. Mara's photos. Owen clicked it. The inbox refreshed. The subject changed. March photos. He sat there, watching the word settle into its new shape. The email contained harmless images from a Seattle school event, students in a gym, balloons, folding chairs, Owen in the background looking bored in a way that now felt like an accusation. He found the camera after that. The memory came as he stood in his childhood bedroom, staring at the closet with the dread of a man who had begun to understand the house better than himself. Mara had given it to him on his 17th birthday. A second-hand camera with a sticky shutter, sand in the seams, and a scratch near the lens. She had carved the initials into the bottom with the same stolen pocketknife she later used at the lighthouse. He climbed onto a chair and reached behind the loose board above the closet shelf. His fingers closed around leather and dust. The camera came down in his hands like a heart pulled from a wall. And for 1 minute, it remembered her. Then it did not. After the letters disappeared, Owen did not sleep for 31 hours. He covered the bedroom wall with maps of Astoria, printed records, screenshots, old photos, copies of copies, arrows, dates, names. He made lists. Places he remembered. Things Mara had said. Objects that had changed. Things that still held. The tape still held, though not her voice. The receipt still held, though not the words on the back. The camera still existed, though not the engraving. The photo existed, though not Mara. It was not deletion exactly. It was correction. The world did not erase holes. It patched them with something plausible. His sister Lauren arrived the next afternoon without knocking. "Owen," she called from downstairs. He froze in his bedroom like a teenager caught doing something shameful. Lauren came up the stairs carrying takeout and wearing the expression she used when she had already decided to be calm through force of will. She was 31, sharp-eyed, compact, and incapable of pretending not to notice things. She stopped in the doorway. Her gaze moved across the maps, the strings, the printouts, the waveform labeled missing voice, the handwritten words, reality corrects evidence. "Oh," she said. Owen looked at the wall, then at her. "It's not what it looks like. That is almost never true. I can explain." "I'm sure you can. That's actually what worries me." He hated the fear behind her sarcasm. Lauren set the takeout on the stripped bed. "Mom called me." "Of course she did. You scared her. She lied to me." Lauren's face tightened. "About what?" "Astoria. She waited. We lived there in 2007. "No, we didn't. You don't remember because maybe you weren't there. You were at school. You stayed with Dad or maybe with Aunt Carol. I don't know how much changed." "Owen." He grabbed the tape recorder from the desk and pressed play. Wind filled the room. Gulls. His young voice. "Mara, say something." The absence came. Lauren listened with her arms crossed, expression guarded but not dismissive. That was almost worse. She listened through the whole section, then looked at him. "Who's Mara?" He laughed once. "That's the question." He told her everything. The memories. The phone call. The school records. The photograph changing. The email. The camera engraving vanishing in his hands. Lauren sat on the floor because there was nowhere else to sit. Her hands rested around a cardboard container of noodles she had not opened. When he finished, she said, "Have you slept?" "Lauren. Answer me." "No." "Have you eaten?" "This is not about food." "No, it's about my brother standing in Dad's old house with a conspiracy wall about a girl no one remembers." He flinched. Lauren saw it and softened. "I'm not trying to be cruel. You think I'm losing it. I think Dad died. I think this house is a nightmare with plumbing. I think Mom is doing her usual thing where she turns pain into errands. I think you spend your life cleaning up dead voices for other people because you don't know what to do with ours." Her voice lowered. "And I think maybe your brain found a girl because a girl is easier to chase than a father who can't apologize anymore." Owen looked away. That was the kind of sentence Lauren had always been able to throw. Accurate enough to hurt. Incomplete enough to be unfair. "I didn't invent her." "I didn't say you did." "You implied it." "I'm saying pain can feel like memory. And I'm saying the metal changed while I was holding it." Lauren's eyes moved to the camera on the desk. She stood, picked it up, and turned it over. Her thumb brushed the scratch where the engraving had been. "You really saw letters?" "Yes." "Me to OR?" "Yes." Her face did not change much, but her fingers held the camera more carefully. "Have you thought?" she said slowly. "Maybe you're not looking for a girl? Don't. Maybe you're looking for who you were when someone saw you clearly." The room became too still. Owen hated her for understanding that part. Because Mara was not only Mara. Mara was the first person who had looked at him without needing him to explain the weather inside his house. His parents' marriage had made him quiet in a way adults praised. Mature, they called him. Responsible. Mara had called him lonely on the 4th day they knew each other, then dared him to deny it. He had not been able to. Lauren set down the cam. "I'm worried about you. I'm going to Astoria." "Of course you are. I need to see what's there." "And if nothing is?" He looked back at the wall of corrected evidence. "Then I'll know the world is thorough. Astoria was real." Owen repeated that to himself as he drove across the bridge into town beneath a low gray sky. Astoria existed. The river existed. The steep streets, the old houses, the gulls screaming over rooftops, the smell of salt and diesel and rain-soaked wood. The town had not been corrected out of existence. Only his life inside it had. The convenience store was still there, though the green awning was now blue and the sign had changed. Inside, the cashier had silver rings in both ears and no memory of 2007 because she had been 5 at the time. "Did there used to be a girl who came here?" Owen asked, then heard himself and winced. The cashier blinked. "Probably lots. She bought cherry soda. Red coat. Camera." The cashier shrugged. "Half the girls in town probably drank cherry soda." Owen nodded as if the sentence had not injured him. To her, Mara was a type. A blur. A detail that could be replaced with a mail truck. To him, she was the way a person became real, not through records, but through the things no one else could substitute. The chipped blue nail polish she hated but kept because her aunt gave it to her. The way she said "read" when he walked too close to the edge of the pier. The paper boats lined up on diner tables after she had run out of things to say about missing her father. He checked the apartment above the old bait shop. County records said it had been vacant during renovation in 2007. He found the house where Mara had lived. A retired couple answered the door. They had bought it in 2001. No Ellis family had ever lived there. They were kind enough to be suspicious politely. He went to the high school. No record of him. No transfer. No file. When he asked about Mara Ellis, the secretary found a student by that name in old district records, but not at the high school. Elementary and middle school, then gone. Where did she go? I can't share that. Owen sat in his car outside the school, rain threading down the windshield, and searched public records until his eyes burned. He found her in Portland. Mara Ellis. Elementary school art teacher. 34. A photo on the school website showed her kneeling beside a table of children holding painted masks. Her hair was shorter than in his memory, her smile older, her face shaped by years he had not known. But it was her. He should have written first. He should have thought about how it would feel to be approached by a stranger who carried your private grief like stolen property. Instead, he drove to Portland the next day. He saw her at 3:38 in the afternoon outside the school, carrying a stack of student drawings under one arm and a tote bag sliding off her shoulder. A boy ran back through the parking lot and handed her a small paper dragon. Mara crouched to accept it with such serious attention that Owen's chest ached. Then the wind blew hair into her face. She brushed it away with her wrist. Owen was out of the car before he decided to move. Mara. She looked up. Hope made a fool of him in the space between her hearing the name and raising her eyes. It told him the body remembered. It told him love left marks deeper than reality could reach. It told him she would see him and gasp and the world would have to give something back. Mara's expression remained polite and blank. I'm sorry, she said. He stopped a few feet away. It's Owen. Her hand tightened around the drawings. Do I know you? Owen Reed. Nothing. Astoria, he said. 2007. Caution entered her face. I think you have the wrong person. No. You wore a red coat. You had a camera. You hated when people called you Mary. Your dad's name was Daniel. He used to fold receipts into paper boats, and after he died, you started doing it when you were sad. You said grief made people talk like bad greeting cards, And if one more person told you everything happened for a reason, you were going to throw a lamp. Mara went pale. Owen mistook it for recognition. You remember? Who told you that? You did. No. You told me on the Quickmart roof after it rained. You had cherry soda, and you were peeling the label off the bottle, and you said your father. Stop. Mara. I said stop. A teacher across the lot looked over. Mara saw him and lifted a hand, a quick gesture meant to say she had things under control. It only made Owen understand how far from control the moment had gone. Her voice dropped. I don't know who you are, but you need to leave. The sentence opened a space in Owen where shame flooded in. To him, she was the girl the world had taken. To her, he was a stranger reciting the names of her dead. He stepped back. I'm sorry. Her eyes remained fixed on him. Not cruel. Afraid. If you come to my school again, she said, I'm calling the police. He nodded. The police called that evening. The officer was calm. Ms. Ellis did not want him near her workplace or home. If he needed to communicate, he should not. Owen said he understood. He did not explain that reality was editing evidence of his first love. Some truths sounded less true when spoken into legal procedure. In the motel room, he wrote Mara a letter he never sent. At first he wrote too much. Astoria. The lighthouse. The camera. Her red coat. The missing voice. The way the world corrected itself. Then he deleted almost all of it. He began again. I am sorry I treated you like proof before I treated you like a person. He stopped. Wrote it by hand instead. I know you do not owe me memory. You do not owe me belief. You do not owe me any version of yourself. That was the first sentence that felt less like pleading and more like truth. 3 days later, Mara emailed him. I have questions. Public place. Data. I choose. They met in a coffee shop with large windows and too many plants. Mara took the chair facing the door. Her phone lay screen up beside her cup. Owen noticed and was glad. Fear deserved practical arrangements. She did not take off her coat. Rules, she said. Okay. You don't come to my school. You don't come to my apartment. You don't contact my friends or coworkers. You don't act like we're dating, or are cosmically assigned to each other. You don't get angry if I don't remember something. You don't ask me to become somebody from your head. If I say we're done, we're done. Yes, Owen said. I mean it. I know. She watched him. Do you? I'm trying to. The answer seemed to do more than a perfect one would have. She looked down at her coffee. How did you know about the boats? Owen slowly reached into his jacket. I have something. Her eyes sharpened. He placed the old receipt on the table between them. It was from the Astoria convenience store. January 2008. The ink had faded, but the creases remained. It had once been folded into a paper boat. Mar did not touch it. What did it say? She asked. On the back. She nodded. Don't let them make it ordinary. Her mouth changed. Not recognition. Pain adjacent to recognition. The words are gone now, Owen said. They disappeared like the engraving. Engraving? He told her about the camera, the photograph, the email. He did not lean forward. He did not perform certainty. He laid the facts down carefully and let her decide how close to stand. When he finished, Mara looked out the window at a woman trying to fold an umbrella in the wind. My father folded paper boats, she said. Owen stayed silent. At diners. On napkins. Receipts. Straw wrappers. He said boats were what paper wanted to become when it grew up. She swallowed. I don't tell people that. No. Her eyes came back to him. Don't say it like you own it. He took the correction without defending himself. You're right. I'm sorry. She looked surprised by that. I'm serious, she said. You knowing things doesn't make them yours. I know. Do you? I'm trying to, he said again. Mara's fingers moved toward the receipt, then stopped. What else? Your father left you a copy of Joni Mitchell's Blue. You played the second track when you missed him, but you never let it finish. The color shifted in her face. Owen looked down because watching her hurt felt too intimate. I don't know you, she said. I know. No, I need you to really understand that. You know some girl you remember. But I wake up in my apartment every morning. I teach art to 3rd and 4th graders who think glitter is an emotional support material. I have a best friend named Celia who sends me terrible dating profiles when she's bored. I have student paintings clipped over my kitchen table. I have a life. Yes. And now you're telling me there is another version of me somewhere who loved you at 16. I know. That is not romantic to me. It's terrifying. I understand. I don't think you do. He took a breath. Maybe I don't. But I want to. Mara looked at the receipt again. The worst part, she said quietly, is that I don't think you're lying. That night, Mara went home and found the record. She told Owen about it later, but he pictured it before she described it. Her apartment small and warm, children's paintings clipped to a wire along one wall, a mug in the sink, rain at the window. The vinyl sleeve pulled from the shelf. Blue, worn at the corners. Daniel Ellis's name written inside in blue pen. She placed the record on the turntable. The first track played. Then the second began. Before the vocal could settle, Mara crossed the room and lifted the needle. Only afterward did she realize she had moved without deciding. She stood there in her socks, one hand hovering over the record, crying in a way that made her angry because she could not tell who the tears belonged to. She called Owen the next morning. I don't remember you, she said. I know. But something in me remembers stopping that song. After that, they began meeting carefully. Not as lovers. Not as strangers. Not as friends exactly. They became two people standing on opposite sides of an impossible hole, calling out details to see what echoed. Mara chose the places. Coffee shops. A public library. Once the lobby of an art museum, because she said if Owen turned out to be dangerous, at least there would be docents. He told her about Astoria in pieces. The apartment. The Quickmart roof. The pier. The lighthouse. Her red coat. Her old camera. The paper boats. She wrote things down on paper, never on her phone after they discovered digital notes softened overnight. Mara sometimes became March. Astoria became a story. Lighthouse became lighthouse, then house. Direct proof blurred fastest. New writing held longer, especially if Mara wrote it herself. That became the first rule they trusted. Old evidence corrected. Present choices held. Owen recorded himself saying her name into 3 different devices. Every time he played it back, static swallowed Mara Ellis as neatly as if the air itself refused to carry her. Mara borrowed a pen from the coffee shop and wrote her name on a napkin. It stayed. Because I did it now, she said. Because you did it now, Owen agreed. She stared at the napkin. That makes me feel better and worse. Yeah. For the first time, they laughed together. Some memories came back, or something close to memories. At a cafe window, Mara suddenly looked up and said, "Was there a saltwater taffy place near the theater?" Owen went still. Yes. She pressed both palms to her eyes. I can see pink boxes. Or I can see you telling me about pink boxes. I hate that I can't tell the difference. Another day, while listening to Blue through one earbud each at her insistence, she blurted, "Don't let it finish. I hate the part after that." She stood so fast her chair scraped. Owen stopped the song. I said it before I knew I was going to say it, she whispered. On the Astoria pier, with fog lying low over the planks, Mara grabbed his sleeve and said, "Reed, not so close to the edge." Owen stopped walking. Mara let go of him as if burned. Is that what I called you? Sometimes. Why? You said Owen sounded too polite for someone who kept stealing your fries. She laughed once, then covered her mouth and cried. Owen did not touch her. That was one of the first ways he learned to love the current Mara differently from the remembered one. The girl in his memory had once shoved him hard enough to bruise when he tried to comfort her too quickly. The woman before him had rules, a phone, a job, a life. He would not reach for her grief without permission. But the returning pieces cost her. At first it was small. She forgot where she parked. She left a grocery bag at the store. She called Owen once from her classroom because she had opened the supply cabinet and stood there, unable to remember why she had needed 26 sheets of blue construction paper. Then it became worse. She missed dinner with Celia and did not remember making plans. She woke at 3 in the morning and did not recognize a framed photo on her dresser for 5 awful seconds. It showed her and Celia at a school fundraiser wearing paper crowns, laughing with their mouths open. Mara knew the event. She knew the dress she had worn. She knew Celia had spilled salsa on a principal's shoe. But for 5 seconds, the woman in the photograph looked like a stranger borrowing her face. Mara called Owen that night. "If I remember all of it," she asked, voice thin with exhaustion, "am I still me?" Owen sat up in the dark motel room. Rain slid down the window. "I don't know. I need you to know. I don't." The honesty hurt both of them. He could hear it land. "I want to be kind to you," she said. "I want to believe you. I even want to believe there was a version of me who had that life. But I can't lose this one because you lost yours." There was the sentence he had been avoiding because it required him to see himself clearly. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know. No. I mean, I'm sorry because part of me still wants to keep going. Even knowing it hurts you. Part of me wants to drag every memory back until you look at me like you did." Mara was silent for a long moment. "Thank you," she said finally. "For what?" "For telling me the ugly truth without dressing it up." He closed his eyes. "It still feels ugly." "It is. I don't want to be that person." "Then don't be." The line stayed with him the next morning as he drove back to Seattle to see his mother. Diane lived in a condo with beige furniture, clean countertops, and no visible photographs of his father. When she opened the door, she looked smaller than he remembered, as if the past few weeks had taken weight from the wrong places. "You should have called before coming," she said. "I did. I mean, you should have waited for me to say yes. It was never going to be a good time." A tired smile touched her mouth. "No. I suppose not." They sat in her kitchen while she made tea neither of them wanted. Owen watched her take down 2 mugs, then pause, then put one back. His father had been dead 6 months, and her body still set places for a man she did not always like while he was alive. "I'm not going to ask if we lived in Astoria," Owen said. Diane's hands stilled on the kettle. "I know what you'll say. I know what the records say. I know what the world says." She sat across from him. "Then why are you here?" "To ask if you wanted to leave Dad." Her face closed. "That's not fair." "No. You know marriage is more complicated than." "I'm not asking for the official version." Diane looked toward the window. The sky outside was the same soft gray Seattle had worn through most of his childhood, a color that made every day feel undecided. "Your father was not an easy man," she said. "I know. He was not a monster either." "I know that too. We were young. Then we weren't. That sounds ridiculous, but it's what happened. We made promises before we understood what keeping them would cost." Owen waited. Diane turned the mug between both hands. "In 2007, I packed a suitcase." His breath stopped. "I remember that clearly," she said. "Standing in the hallway. Your door was cracked open. You were pretending to sleep because that's what you did when we fought. You made yourself quiet so we wouldn't have to deal with your fear on top of ours." Owen looked down. "I thought if I stayed," she said, "I would teach you love meant endurance and nothing else. But you did stay." "Yes." "Why?" "Because the next morning your father apologized. Not well, but enough to give me something to hold. We went to counseling. Things got better for a while. Then worse. Then ordinary." She gave a small, bitter laugh. "Ordinary can look a lot like success if you're tired." "Do you remember Astoria?" Diane closed her eyes. "Mom." "I remember a dream," she whispered. Owen leaned forward. "Not a normal dream. It was too long. Too detailed. Like a life I almost walked into." Her fingers tightened around the mug. "There was an apartment by the water. The window leaked near your bed. I bought a blue kettle because the stove was unreliable. You smiled more there." Her voice broke on that. Owen had no defense against his mother grieving a version of him she had also lost. "There was a girl," Diane said. "I don't remember her face. I remember being annoyed because she knocked too early. I remember being grateful because you got up for her." "Mara." Maybe. You chose to stay, he said. I think so. And that choice corrected everything else. Diane looked at him with wet eyes. Maybe. Or maybe I'm trying to make sense of something impossible because my son is hurting and I can't bear to be the person who tells him no again. He almost smiled. That's not a very clean answer. No, she said. I'm out of clean answers. For a while, they listened to the kettle tick as it cooled. I was angry at you, Owen said. I know. I still am, a little. I know that too. But I think I kept making you the villain because it was easier than admitting every life cost something. Diane's face folded. I'm sorry, she said. For staying. For letting you think your memories were just another mess I needed to manage. That did something no photograph had managed. It did not prove Mara. It gave Owen back a witness to the shape of his own pain. When he returned to Portland and told Mara, she listened without interrupting. They were sitting on a bench outside the museum, both holding coffee gone lukewarm. So your mother remembers a life that didn't happen, Mara said. Some of it. Does that make you feel better? I thought it would. And? It makes everything sadder. Mara nodded. That sounds accurate. She stayed. In this version. And maybe that was better for them. Maybe better for Lauren. Maybe even better for me in some ways. But not in all ways. No. Mara looked down at her hands. You kept saying you lost me. I know. But if this is true, I lost more than you. I lost whatever version of myself met you. Whatever she learned. Whatever she became because of those 9 months. She looked at him. You remember her better than I do, and I hate you a little for that. You can. That's annoyingly generous. I'm trying not to be terrible. How's that going? Mixed reviews. Her mouth almost smiled. Then she said, Take me to the lighthouse. Owen stared. No. No. I mean, why? Because I want to see it. It might make things worse. Everything might make things worse. That seems to be the theme. Mara. I'm not doing it for you, she said. I'm doing it because there is a girl with my face in your story, and I want to stand where she stood. He wanted to tell her not to. He wanted to tell her yes. He wanted so many things that none of them counted as love until he chose which ones to refuse. Okay, he said. But if you want to leave, we leave. Good. And we drive separately. She raised an eyebrow. I was already going to say that. But police adjacent. Exactly. They met in Astoria 2 days later beneath a sky heavy with fog. Mara brought coffee in 2 paper cups and handed him one without ceremony. You look like someone walking to trial, she said. That's about right. I'm not the judge. No. I'm the confused witness who might also be evidence. He winced. Joke, she said. Sorry. A bleak joke, but still. They climbed the hill toward the old lighthouse. Wet grass slapped at their shoes. Fog collected in Mara's hair. Owen's heart pounded harder with every step, not from exertion but from the old certainty rising despite everything. The lighthouse emerged white and weathered, streaked with rust, abandoned but still standing. The fence leaned open where someone had cut the chain years before. Owen led Mara to the seaward wall. It was here, he said. The wall was blank. At first he searched calmly. Then less calmly. He counted steps from the corner. Checked the height. Touched cracks. Moved along the curve. Maybe paint had covered the letters. Maybe salt had eaten them. Maybe he had misremembered the exact place. Nothing. No O+M. No even if everything changes. No wound, no scar, no refusal. Only weathered paint. Mara stood a few feet away, arms around herself, watching him lose the last proof he had brought her to see. It was here, he said, but the words had gone thin. I believe you remember it here, she said. The carefulness of the sentence hurt. He pressed his palm against the wall. I'm not asking the whole world to believe me, he said. I just need you to remember. Mara's face changed. For a moment, he thought he had been cruel enough to force memory out of her. Instead she said, softly, Owen. Don't say my name like that. Like what? Like I'm sick. I don't think you're sick. You called the police. You came to my school and told me private things about my dead father. The truth struck cold and clean. He lowered his hand. I know. Mara stepped closer, but not close enough to touch him. I believe you didn't invent me. I believe something happened to you. I believe the way you talk about that girl isn't an act. Her voice trembled once, then steadied. But I can't become her just because you lost her. The sentence broke him because it was not rejection. It was the first honest boundary between the past and the woman standing in front of him. Owen looked at the blank wall. For weeks, he had been telling himself he wanted truth. But truth had become tangled with hunger. He wanted Mara to remember so he would not be alone. He wanted her current life to make room for his lost one. He wanted the woman in front of him to become evidence. I'm sorry, he said. Mara did not answer immediately. He turned to leave because he did not know how to stand there with his need exposed. Wait, she said. He stopped. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a receipt. I bought gum on the drive, she said. I don't like gum. I think I was nervous. Owen watched as she took a pen from her bag and wrote on the back. Her handwriting was not the handwriting he remembered exactly. Of course it wasn't. 15 years had happened to her too. Then she folded the receipt into a paper boat. The motion was quick, practiced, almost unconscious. Her thumbs knew the creases. Her face shifted when she realized that, but she did not stop. She set the boat on a flat stone beside the lighthouse wall. Open it, she said. He did. Maybe I don't remember loving you. But I believe someone like me could have. Things stayed. Owen stared at the sentence until the words blurred. I wrote it now, Mara said. I know. No ghosts. No old proof. Mine. He folded the boat again with care. Something inside him loosened then. Not the love. Not the grief. Something sharper. The grip. The demand. He looked at Mara, not the girl in the red coat, not the voice missing from tape, not the blur corrected into a mail truck, but the woman who had driven herself through fog to stand beside pain she did not fully remember. I wanted you back more than I wanted to know you, he said. Mara took that in without softening it for him. Then she nodded once. That's the first thing you've said today that feels completely true. He almost laughed. The fog moved between them. What do we do now? He asked. I don't know. Okay. I have a class Monday, she said. Clay monsters. 26 children. What clay? No respect for gravity. Despite everything, he smiled. You should go home, Owen. This time, the hurt felt like mercy. Yeah, he said. I think I should. He drove back to Seattle with Mara's paper boat in the cup holder. For the first hour, he kept glancing at it to make sure the words remained. By the second, he stopped checking. Not because he trusted reality. Because he trusted her choice more than he trusted proof. At his father's house, the walls still held his investigation. Printouts. Corrected photographs. Timelines. Waveforms. Arrows. Notes. All of it looked suddenly less like evidence and more like grief trying to become architecture. He took everything down. One pin at a time. He did not throw the papers away. He placed them in a box. Surrender, he discovered, did not require pretending. But he stopped asking the papers to save him. The realtor came the next day. Owen signed the documents to sell the house. Lauren arrived that evening with sandwiches and canned champagne. Nothing says healthy closure, she said, like processed meat and aluminum bubbles. He told her about the lighthouse. About the blank wall. About Mara's paper boat. Lauren held it carefully after asking permission. She read the sentence and pressed her lips together. Well, she said, voice thick, that is emotionally devastating and annoyingly elegant. You'd like her. I already like her more than I like you. Fair. They sat on the bare living room floor because the couch had been donated that morning. Their voices echoed in the room where their father had once watched baseball too loudly and fallen asleep with one hand on the remote. Are you okay? Lauren asked. No. Better question. Are you going to be okay? Owen looked at the pale rectangle on the wall where a family photo had hung. For years, he had thought healing meant figuring out which version of the family was true, the one that stayed, the one that broke, the one that almost left for the coast. Now he wondered if every version had cost someone something, even the versions reality refused to document. I think so, he said. Lauren leaned her head briefly against his shoulder. He let her. Later, alone in the basement, Owen played the tape again. Gulls. His young voice. Mara, say something. The absence. This time he did not rewind immediately. He let the tape continue. There was a faint bump, probably Mara hitting his arm. His younger self laughed. Okay, young Owen said. I won't use it if you hate it. Then more wind. Owen closed his eyes and listened all the way through. The absence remained, but it no longer felt empty in the same way. It felt like a covered well. Something deep existed beneath it, unreachable but not imaginary. He carried the recorder upstairs and set it beside Mara's paper boat. Over the next week, he began making a private sound piece. At first he told himself it was preservation. Then he admitted it was a gift. Not proof. Not an argument. Not bait for memory. A gift. He called it the life we almost had. He did not include theories about reality-correcting paths. He had grown tired of sounding like a man trying to win a legal case against the universe. Instead, he recorded himself telling the story of a boy whose parents were braking slowly and a girl who knocked on his window before sunrise. He talked about Astoria not as evidence, but as weather inside a life. Fog snagged on power lines. Wet sneakers on convenience store tile. The Quickmart roof gravel biting into their palms. Cherry soda too sweet to admit liking. Mara's red coat against gray mornings. The way she held her camera like it gave her permission to stare directly at the world. He talked about Daniel Ellis's record and how Mara lifted the needle before the second track could wound her too precisely. He talked about paper boats. He talked about how she hated the phrase "everything happens for a reason." She said people loved that sentence because it let them stop listening. Owen recorded, then stopped because his voice had gone uneven. He began again. She said some things happen for no reason, and the best we can do is refuse to make them ordinary. He told the story of the camera. It had been raining hard the day she gave it to him. She dragged him behind the shuttered theater because the mural, in her opinion, looked better when depressed. He took 3 bad pictures and 1 good one. The good one works, she said, because you stopped trying to make it impressive. Later, on the Quickmart roof, she handed him the camera wrapped in newspaper comics. I can't take this, he said. You can. I checked. It's yours. It was mine. Now it's conducting a student exchange program. Mara. Reed. It's too much. She looked away toward the wet parking lot. Don't make everything about what can be paid back. Owen used that line in the recording too. He spoke about leaving Astoria only near the end. His mother had received a call from his father. Apologies. Promises. The exhausted hope of adults who could not always tell repair from repetition. Diane packed again, this time to return to Seattle. Owen did not fight because 16-year-olds often mistake silence for maturity. Mara met him at the lighthouse the night before he left. The fog was so thick their hair turned damp in minutes. She brought the pocket knife and carved their initials into the wall while he told her it was stupid and she told him stupid was historically underrated. O+M. Even if everything changes. They kissed afterward, badly at first, then not badly, both laughing because grief and love had made them clumsy. Owen did not describe the goodbye in detail. Some things did not become more true by being displayed. At the end of the piece, he included the original tape. Mara, say something. The shaped absence followed. Then his older voice returned. I don't have her answer anymore, he said. But I know I heard it. I know who I became because of it. And if that is all the world leaves me, it is still not nothing. He sent the file to Mara on a Friday evening. No message except, for you. No obligation. Then he waited. Waiting was worse without a mission inside it. He did not drive to Portland. He did not research. He did not test reality with traps. He packed dishes. He donated his father's coats. He met the estate saleswoman. He found the last voicemail his father had left and finally listened. His father's voice came through small and tired. Hey, Owen. It's Dad. I know you're probably busy. I was just thinking about that documentary you told me about, The one with the old jazz recordings. Sounds interesting. Anyway, call me when you get a chance. That was all. No revelation. No apology large enough to repair childhood. Just a man reaching awkwardly across a distance he had helped create. Owen sat on the stairs and cried, not like breaking this time, but like thawing. Mara came 3 weeks later. He was at the house for the final walkthrough, checking closets that no longer held anything but dust and bent hangers, when he saw her through the front window. She stood on the porch with a canvas bag over one shoulder, looking uncertain and annoyed by her uncertainty. Owen opened the door. For a moment, neither of them spoke. She wore a green sweater under her coat. There was paint on the side of one hand. Her hair blew across her face, and when she pushed it away with her wrist, Owen felt the old ache but did not let it decide anything for him. "Hi," she said. "Hi. I should have called. You're allowed. I wasn't sure until I parked. That you wanted to come? That I wasn't making a terrible decision. And now?" She looked past him into the empty house. "Still collecting data." He stepped aside. "Come in." Mara entered slowly. Her gaze moved over the bare floors, the pale marks where pictures had hung, the boxes labeled with actual labels now instead of emotional panic. "This is the house," she said. "Yeah. The one you're selling." Final walkthrough. "Is it strange?" "Yes." "Good strange or bad strange?" "Family strange." She nodded as if the category needed no explanation. They walked through the rooms. Owen did not give a tour so much as let memories rise when they wanted. Here was where Lauren cut her own bangs at 8 and blamed gravity. Here was where his father kept bills in a drawer and called it organization. Here was the kitchen where Diane had decided and undecided her life 100 times. Mara listened. In the living room, she stopped beside the box containing the tape recorder and her paper boat. "I listened," she said. Owen's hands went still. "All of it. You didn't have to." "I know." He waited. Mara touched the strap of her bag. "I cried for a long time." His chest tightened. "Because you remembered?" "No." The answer hurt. He was surprised to realize it did not destroy him. "Not exactly," she said. "I remembered feelings. Maybe. Or I imagined them so clearly they felt like memory. I don't know if there's a meaningful difference, and that annoys me because I like meaningful differences." "That sounds like you." She pointed at him. "Careful." He smiled. "Sorry. The girl in your story feels like me," Mara said. "Not exactly me. I wouldn't have stolen a pocket knife." "You absolutely would have." "I would have borrowed it without permission and returned it eventually." "Of course. But she feels like someone I could have been if life had turned its head a little." Mara swallowed. "And I kept thinking, if that version of me loved you, I understand her." Owen did not trust himself to speak. Mara stepped closer. "Not much, but enough to change the room." "I don't know if I'm remembering," she said. "But I know I don't want to walk away." The empty house held the sentence gently. For years, Owen had imagined life-changing moments arriving with force. But sometimes they came softly, while dust moved through late afternoon light and two people stood among boxes of what remained. "I don't want you to feel obligated to a ghost," he said. "I don't. Or to me because I'm sad." "You are sad, but not that charmingly." He laughed and she smiled for real. Then her smile faded into something more vulnerable. "I'm not her," she said. "I know. I may never remember what she remembered. I know. If we do this, whatever this is, it has to belong to now." Owen looked at the paper boat, the tape recorder, the empty room, the place where his father's chair had left dents in the carpet. Then he looked back at Mara. "Now is good," he said. She exhaled as if she had prepared herself for a harder fight. They did not kiss in the empty living room. It would have been too easy, too much like letting the past cut a line. Instead, Mara reached out and took his hand. Her hand was warm, present. Owen held it without gripping too tightly. The sale closed the next morning. Afterward, they walked through Seattle with no plan because plans felt too formal for the thing beginning between them. Mara complained about the hills. Owen bought coffee too bitter for both of them. She asked about his work, and he explained how damaged audio could be cleaned without falsifying it, how the goal was not to erase harm but to let the surviving voice come through. Halfway through, he stopped. Mara looked at him. Did you just accidentally make your job a metaphor? I'm afraid so. Embarrassing. Deeply. They passed a small photo lab tucked between a tailor and a coffee shop. Sample portraits faded in the window. Mara stopped. What? Owen asked. I brought my camera. His heart gave one hard beat. The old one? No, she glanced at him. Mine. Current mine. Bought it 4 years ago from a guy who said film was dead, then charged me like it was immortal. That sounds right. She took the camera from her bag. Black body, worn strap, no impossible engraving. She held it with the confidence of someone who had built a life around small acts of seeing. No old proof, she said. Owen looked at her. No ghosts, she continued. Just one picture from today. They stood outside the photo lab as evening gathered around the city. Car lights shone on damp pavement. People passed carrying groceries, flowers, takeout, ordinary evidence of ordinary lives. The glass reflected them faintly. Owen tired and newly unguarded. Mara nervous, amused, brave. She lifted the camera. Wait, Owen said. What? I'm bad in photos. I know. You don't know that. I spiritually know that. He laughed, and that was when she took the picture. The shutter clicked. Nothing happened. No wind rose. No static burst from the street. No correction moved through the world. The camera remained in Mara's hands. The moment remained between them. They took the film inside. The clerk said it would take a few days. Old panic rose in Owen automatically, but Mara touched his wrist. Let it take a few days, she said. So he did. 3 days later, the photograph arrived by email and print. It stayed. In it, Owen was laughing with his eyes half closed. Mara stood beside him, not touching him except at the shoulder, looking at him instead of the camera. The image was slightly crooked. The light was imperfect. A stranger's elbow intruded at the edge. It was not proof of Astoria. It was better. Mara came over that night to Owen's new apartment, which contained too few chairs and too many unpacked boxes. She brought takeout and a receipt. You're doing that on purpose now, Owen said. Doing what? Keeping receipts. I'm fiscally responsible. You bought noodles from a cash-only place. I'm emotionally responsible. She sat at his small kitchen table, wrote on the back of the receipt, folded it into a paper boat, and pushed it across to him. He opened it. Maybe we don't get our old life back. Maybe we start here. The words did not vanish. Owen placed the boat beside the photograph on the table. Outside, Seattle rain moved softly against the windows. Somewhere above them, a neighbor laughed too loudly. A bus sighed at the curb. The world went on correcting whatever it corrected, indifferent and immense. The old tape still held its absence. The lighthouse wall remained blank. The school records still insisted he had never left Seattle. If he searched his email, Mara might become March again. If he tried to force the past into evidence, reality would likely sand it down into something acceptable. But Mara sat across from him in the present, stealing broccoli from his takeout container as if she had a legal claim, and the new photograph lay between them without fear. Owen looked at her, and for once he did not ask the world to confess. Mara caught him staring. What? Nothing. That was not a nothing look. No. That was a meaningful, emotionally suspicious look. He smiled. I was thinking some things happened for no reason. Her expression softened. And, she asked, and we don't have to make them ordinary. Mara looked down at the paper boat, then back at him. No, she said. We don't. She reached across the table. This time, when Owen took her hand, he did not feel the past trying to pull her away from him. He felt the fragile pressure of a beginning. Not proof. Not correction. Not the return of what had been lost. And for the first time in years, that was enough.